Hello and welcome to another episode of the ADHD Goals Podcast. Today I have a fantastic guest for you today. His name is Jon Nastor, a former punk rock drummer turned successful entrepreneur. He was diagnosed with ADHD at age 40, and he now leverages his unique perspective to lead his team with creativity, resilience, and an innovative approach to business. So with over 13 years of experience in online entrepreneurship, Johnny has mastered the art of building and scaling successful digital ventures. And he's now the founder of Digital Commerce Partners, a leading SEO agency that grew from a partnership with Copyblogger. Now, Johnny, I am very excited to have you on the show because I have been a fan of yours for quite some time. So how are you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
It is Halloween. Yeah, I
love Halloween.
Well, I've got to take my kids trick-or-treating tonight, so that's quite an excitement.
I get to give out candy. Yeah, but I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. If I may just explain to the listeners why I'm so excited to have you on the show, because if they detect a fanboy thing going on here, because back in 2010, a friend of mine called me up, he's an old university friend, and he said, I'm starting a digital marketing agency. Would you like to be the designer? And this was 10 years ago. Oh, no, sorry, 2010, which is longer than that now. And I had never worked in an agency. I was a designer. I was building websites. I had no idea what it took to build an agency. And then a few years went by, and as you are in a small agency, you're not doing just one job, you're sort of fighting fires everywhere. And along that journey of a huge learning curve, I came across the Copyblogger network. And also with that was the Rainmaker podcasts, which you had a podcast on there, the Hack the Entrepreneur. And I can't tell you how much of a learning companion all of those things were, and got me through some really tough times. So to be able to have you on the show and to chat with you is a real special treat for me.
That's awesome. Good to hear. Good to hear I'm not the only one who started an agency without work.
Okay. So Johnny, tell us about your own ADHD journey. How did that come about?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess it's not unique to me, but I was diagnosed with ADHD at 40 years old. Yeah, which when it happened, I had no idea. I never even thought about it. It didn't cross my mind. I had spent 2 years in and out of doctor's offices before that, just with struggling with stuff mentally and just physically. So sleep studies and talking to every sort of specialist and stuff in Canada. It's just sort of how it works. You have to go slowly through the different specialists. And then it turns out my family and I were actually in Europe for a couple of months. Just hanging out. And then we were heading back we lived in a smaller city, quite a ways from here at that point. And then it was kind of just dreading. I don't want to go back to a small town. I'm not a small town person. I think it's because I need the busyness of the city around me. And so we decided at that time to move to Toronto, the main big city in our country, the biggest one by far. And we did 2 months later, packed up everything, moved. And then at that point I got a new doctor, the new family doctor. He was just immediately okay, why did we send you to a psychiatrist? I was just okay, which I wasn't expecting. I thought it was another sleep study and all that stuff. And the psychiatrist talking to me, I was, have you ever been tested for ADHD? And I was I'm 40 years old, another kid. I didn't know anything about it. I knew nothing about it at that point. And he just like, all right, so he gives me like some cheaper paper to fill. I was like, I'm going to leave the room. We'll give you half an hour to fill some stuff out or whatever. He starts looking through it and everything. And he just like, this is it. This is the problem. And instantly I was like, okay, it's weird. And then he's like, there's this book called Driven to Distraction. He's like, just get it and read it. And I started reading it. And I mean, if you've read the book, which possibly you have, it just goes through stories of people's lives. And it was just like, so many of those stories were like, holy hell, oh, what? And then I was just like, this is insane. So then I gave the book to my mother to read. My mother like calls me like a couple hours later after I left her house, and she's like crying because she's like, I'm so sorry. How did I not know this was the problem? And then it was just, wow. And all of a sudden it was like, it was just sort of a profound change. One thing I could now dive into like, what is this? And like, and it was funny because then as my learning of it went was like, wow, I've developed so many like little tiny sort of habits and things around just myself. That's all I knew it was. I was just like, how do I? Lots of it was my wife also took care of a ton of stuff in our life because he's like, I guess he just can't do it. But none of us knew. We had no idea. So it was just this profound change of just like, all of a sudden there was like, how did we miss this whole part of Jon before? Even though we knew it and we dealt with it, we just didn't know what it was. And so since then, it's literally just been a dive into ADHD and around. And done being surprised by it. Now when I read something, right? Oh, of course that's what I do. But it was a couple of years of just wow. And like I could go like, oh, I wish I would have found out when I was 15. How much different? Whatever. Yeah. I actually think that it might have been more boring or something. Pretty crazy journey of just doing all kinds of stuff because of this. Maybe to my detriment, but I don't think so. I think it's been fun. But there was a lot of frustration that I could have probably handled a lot better had I known.
I'm curious to know about the younger version of you at schools, because I'm always interested to know when people learn about ADHD, being ADHD later on in life, that the fact that it's missed when they're at school. For me personally, it's because I wasn't the hyperactive type of ADHD, which was disruptive in class. I was much more like a lot of women are finding out now that they're diagnosed with ADHD because we're understanding sort of what's happening inside the brain a lot more and sort of an internal hyperactivity. So I wonder for you, what's type? Were you hyperactive, fidgety, or were you sort of just overthinking internally?
Overthinking internally. And so I would say I'm definitely not hyperactive, but I do fidget. I have actually like a little fidget cube thing here. I have a fidget, but also a drummer. I started playing drums when I was really young. And just like tapping on my desk and stuff was always a thing with teachers. But I didn't take it, but it wasn't like, if I stopped that, I would just stop. I didn't like react. But we had report cards from grade school, like several of them from when I was really young. And it was like every single teacher, except for, I think, from physical education, because I was just never really that good at that, was Jon would be a great student if he just learned to apply himself. It was just that all the time. And I honestly stopped taking hard classes. I just went to the easiest stuff I could get through. Passed all my classes until grade 10. In grade 10, I guess just a bunch of other stuff. And I literally failed all my classes. Ended up like a year behind, but it was high school, so it didn't really matter. I hung out with people older and younger than me. And I also started joining bands then and started traveling in bands at that point. And then I knew I couldn't go to university with the grades I had because they were terrible. But in early grade 12, I did discover there was this way to get into university if you wanted as a mature student, was always my joke. I'm just like, well, not honestly mature, but after 2 years out of school, they stopped looking at your grades and you have to just like write them a little essay about why. And I think, look, I can convince people. Sure, if I should swear. But I was like, I need to convince people of anything. I'm really good at sales. I can do that. And so I just like did it, and I did it 3 different times and dropped out each time from university after the first year, because I was just like, I want to get in, and then I get in, and then, okay, now I can't do this. And I didn't know why. I just like, even though I was interested in it and I read a ton, I still do fiction and nonfiction and just fascinated with stuff. I could never apply myself in that way to get through things. And I didn't know. I don't know. I just didn't know. I wasn't aware of it, that it was even any different for anybody else. I don't think. I was just like, it's just not for me. I'm going to go back to playing drums.
Yeah.
So
it strikes me that the thing that you said on your report card, that Jon could be a great student if he applied himself, and then to look at sort of the fact that you're a successful online entrepreneur, just the sort of the gap in between that, in terms of, if the interest isn't there, you don't necessarily want to apply yourself until there is something that you want to do, and then you find that hyper focus to go for it. And I wonder, and I mean, that's an assumption, but I'm guessing, but how did you make a success of becoming an entrepreneur with your ADHD before you knew you had ADHD, should I say? Was there a lot of figuring stuff out or failed attempts? Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. So I think a big part of the schooling, and is also the same reason why I just had to start businesses, was because I don't like being told what to do. I'm really bad at taking directions from other people. And I feel like I need to be in control of both my successes and my failures. So I don't like it just sort of being in someone else's control. To a lot of people, having a job and stuff is more secure. To me, it's not, because just some other goofball running that company and they can run into the ground and I have no control over it. That's not control. At least if it's going to be a goofball running into the ground, it should be me. And I can maybe roll it into something else. So it was just, honestly, in high school, it started putting on, because again, we lived in a small little town. And so I was just like, I've heard in magazines and stuff, because before the internet, in the early and mid 90s, I was like, I need to see these shows and bands playing that I hear about all the time. And so we started putting on shows ourselves. Just like, go rent a hall, gather up the money, rent the hall, bring people in for $5 each. And then let's go to the grocery store, buy some pop and some stuff, and then let's sell it for a bit more. And it was literally, I didn't realize I was building this thing, and we'd walk away with some money, and then we could play bands and stuff. It was like, this is amazing. I get to see the show. I get to make some money. Everyone's happy. This is cool. I didn't realize it was actually a business. It wasn't like that. It was just sort of, I wanted something to exist for I was like, yeah, I'm not going to wait for somebody else to do this, because it probably won't happen. So that part didn't even really connect. It was just like, I want this to exist. Let's make it exist. I want this to exist. Let's make it exist. And then from there, it just sort of rolled into just various different things. My early businesses were in construction, because my dad built houses and I grew up in it. So I've got this skill in me. It's like, people will pay me for it, and I can do it in my time when I'm not in my band and stuff like that. And so then it was like, okay, but I can just get people to do this for me. And then I could just go get the work. Rolled into, and then I moved across the country with my band. And so then I stopped business, but then I got back into it from there. But it's literally if you look at those first 12, 15 years of my business, just sort of from one weird idea to the next, and they just sort of rolled, and I would just learn something and then into something else. I mean, the agency I run now literally was started with the guy from Copy Blogger, because of the Copy Blogger network, like you talked about earlier. And it's like, oh yeah, the Copy Blogger network. But that's literally what now has rolled into the agency. It was just, we hit something off there, and then 5 years later, it was like, oh, we should start this agency. I was like, wow, okay, let's do that.
Yeah.
That's sort of just been what it's been.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I learn enough in each one that they get sort of bigger and more successful each time, and I can roll into something else if I want.
I'm interested to know, because you said about some people find having a job being secure and that's good for them, but the fact that you wanted control over the direction of things, I feel very similar in that whenever I've worked for other people, I'd be figuring out gaps and always wanting to grow things, but it really wasn't my gig to be able to do that necessarily. And also, I've always found it quite difficult when I'm trying to solve a problem and build frameworks around it, is to be able to always share that with somebody to alleviate the work that I'm doing. You have to be quite prepared and organized to get people to do work for you. So I just wonder, with the successes that you've had, at what point did you learn the importance of support or accountability? And because you seem to have worked it out somewhere along the line, because it can be quite difficult and overwhelming to have that control all the time, but burn out by trying to do everything yourself. So how did that work for you, the support aspect?
So a couple of businesses along the way, I started with partners. And I had other people I would talk to in business and stuff and be like, oh, I love doing it myself. And I was just like, I like having a partner, something to share the thing with. And I didn't realize at the time though, and that I was typically partnering with somebody who was like the exact opposite of me. Therefore, good at operations and like executing an idea rather than like, I can like come up with ideas and generate them and like figure out at a high level what needs to happen. I can like do marketing and I can do sales, but I can't really get into the nitty gritty of like, let's figure out these SOPs and stuff like that. It's not me. But I knew the importance of it. And now, my agency now is called Digital Commerce Partners, because literally like, there's partners in it that have different skills than I do. And to me, it's like the greatest thing ever. It's like, people are like, well, you don't want to share your successes and stuff. It's like, I am kind of, but also, you know what? I'd rather a smaller portion of something really big than like all of like something really small, because it's just like suffering from my missing parts. Right. And you can get that by hiring people, obviously, and stuff too. But I think you have to admit and try, or at least to myself, I need to try and not be things that I'm not. I'm not into improving things that I know I could improve like I could get a little bit better at operations. I could get a little bit better at like going and creating the right processes and stuff, but I'd still be pretty crap at it. So it's just like, why I need to find somehow to get that done with somebody else totally in charge of it, because it'll just be 1,000 times better than I could ever do. And that just lets me lean into what I actually am good at. Like I'm all for learning new skills, but like I'm really not against like fighting the current sort of thing. Like if certain things just aren't meant to be, just let them not be, because it's just too much work. And I'm never going to be that good at it. That's totally cool. I don't need to be good at everything. Really good at that many things. I just have to be really quite good at a few things. And as long as I can do that and be good with it, then everything seems to just work out better. And before I knew this, I would try and like, no, I should just figure out how to like map this out better. I should figure out how to just work through this problem. And it's not me. It's just one of those things, knowing what you're good at and then just sort of pushing that. Although like, it seems like something we hear all the time. It's sort of like an internal conflict that I've been able to get rid of. I don't have this conflict of worrying about those things I'm not good at. It just has nothing to do with me. It's just like, I just need to figure out like this other stuff. Still need to improve in things. I still need to get better, but like, it's not in everything.
Yeah.
I don't need to be well-rounded.
I think that's possibly the beauty of being an entrepreneur, and partly the reason why supposedly there's a high percentage of people with ADHD that are entrepreneurs because of that feeling of being able to sort of shape the work that they do. Because I mean, it's certainly a trap that I've fallen into when I've worked for other people, is that there's that overwhelming feeling that you should be good at certain things for whatever your job is. And I would end up focusing really hard on my weaknesses and trying to improve those, and trying to figure out systems that would make it easier for me to understand them. Or when you mention SOPs, I'd be obsessed with them, but really find them tedious. And I think, that just leads to burnout, essentially, when you're focusing entirely on improving the things that you're weak at and not actually doing the things that you're probably excelling at. So I think, that's probably why a lot of ADHD people turn to entrepreneurship. But it's still an important thing to recognize and to let go of as well.
Right. And so like with SOPs, so we have a massive library now of SOPs that have been built out over the last 2 years because I know the importance of them. But like something like it's sort of whatever. Me as the guy in charge of it, I also know that I do need to have sort of a deep understanding of the SOPs and if they're right and all that stuff. But I had this like sub team set up in my team building out SOPs for everything in this library. And then they would send them to me to go through to approve them. And at first it was just like, I would try. And then it was like, this isn't right. Me going through this doesn't help. One thing I can't focus at all. I was scanning through stuff like, I don't know. Then it was like, okay, so I know like the importance of this is the output. Is the output consistent across anybody who does it in the organization so that it is right for the client? So then it was just like, I was like, okay, let's take this person who's never done this before. I want them to go through this. Show me the outcome. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, and then I would look and it was like, okay, so I know that this spreadsheet needs to look like this because I created part of it. And it's like, hey, so we're missing this. Why? And then they would go back and like, oh, right. And then they would fix the SOP until now we get the output right. And I was like, perfect. I don't need to read this SOP. I need to know it's there and that this output is what we need. And then it was the whole team was good. Yes, we're like, we spent so much time on this. You have to read this. And I was like, I can't. Yeah, I'm not trying to diminish the value of it. I absolutely know the value of it. It was just, we had to find this like workaround, which was like, it's just about the output to me. And it's like, I know you have to do all of these steps to get there, and then that was our sort of thing. It was like, and then my team even really was started to get more on board with like, it wasn't Jon just trying to ignore this stuff. It was like, Jon can't do that stuff. And we don't need him to. We just need him to be able to see that. And then it was like, oh, those are the kind of things that like, it's not me trying to ignore SOPs because I'm no good at them. It's just us trying to figure out how do we still like use my skills to make that work. Does that make sense? It's like, yeah, that was sort of our program, like, oh, okay. That can work. And it's like, it's different. It's not how we thought we were going to be doing it, but it absolutely works. And we built out amazing SOPs for just working it. And I got to approve all of them.
Yeah. I'm just thinking about, from the listener's point of view, for those that haven't, maybe aren't familiar with the term SOP, it's a standard operation procedure. That's the right. And the beauty of those, if there's anybody who listening who is wanting to be an entrepreneur, but they're maybe a solopreneur working on their own, at some point you're going to need some assistance to share the load of the work. And SOPs are invaluable for being able to hand over the work that is going to be done the way you need it to be done, so that you can focus on, like you were saying before, that what your strengths are. So, for anybody listening who doesn't know what they are, check them out. They're really great. And that obviously it's important to develop SOPs for the business that you're running, but there are SOP libraries that I know that you can get that will at least kickstart you off if you're new to them. So maybe I can put a link in the show notes to some of those.
There's SOP software now. What is it?
I know
Scribe.
Scribe. Oh yes, Scribe. Yeah.
Scribe is amazing. and subscribe. So, and anybody listening, sorry about the SOP thing, but like, yeah, it's a standard operating procedure. The profound change in my head also, say 10 years ago, about because standard operating procedures, I didn't understand them. It makes sense. Um, Anything you do in your business or in your freelancing or in your work, anything you, even brushing your teeth, you have a procedure you follow. We all do. We all have procedures we follow. They're just not documented. But literally just think about the next time you're brushing your teeth. Like, do you pick up the toothbrush first or do you pick it up after the toothpaste? We all do it in different ways. And it's just, all of this documenting that so that somebody, if you weren't there that day, somebody could brush their teeth the same way you do. It's literally that. But there are these things like Scribe, where if you're doing anything online or on your computer, you just click go at the beginning and it takes screenshots. It like uses AI to like say what you're doing. And it's amazing. Literally starts to create SOPs for you of stuff. And it makes it a lot easier than it used to be. But it's just a procedure. We all have procedures for everything we do. We just documentation.
Yeah, I suppose because a lot of people, they like the idea of being an entrepreneur, setting up a business because they're not happy with the job that they're doing. And what they end up doing is they think that they're creating a business, but they're creating another job for them to do. And I suppose the difference between being able to automate your business or to create Ps to have somebody else do it, you can step away from your business and then that's a business. It's not necessarily a job. You're not creating a job for yourself. And that's, I suppose, the leap to make is SOPs. So tell me, what other things within you running your businesses have you come up against with your ADHD that you've begun to be able to work around? Creative ways that you've found to leverage your ADHD?
I'm in a lucky position now where I've been able to hire a really brilliant team around me. A brilliant team knows how to execute and understands me to the point where we'll be on a team meeting and I'll go off on a tangent about how we need this thing built out for our website or something. And they'll totally just go on about something else, forget about it. And then a month later, we're back on we're on another call and all of a sudden one of them like presents it to me. And it's like, what are you talking? And I'm like, oh, wow, that's amazing. That kind of like, but it's not a position everyone's in where I'm surrounded by people working full time and and they're just better at this stuff than I am. So I love doing stuff. So I do have that, but also something else with having a team and having people and delegating stuff is knowing that not everybody will be as good as you at some things, because your business, you just inherently are really good at some of this stuff. And that's totally fine. It's like you can't grow if you don't just accept it. Some things can be 95%. That's totally cool because you can have 5 or 10 people doing it 95% rather than just you at 100%. Those kind of things do help. And then I think something else I discovered long before I had ADHD, which was just being able to make decisions quickly and to not sort of get frozen in place with anything. And so the thing I've had to do is just sort of try and make small decisions constantly so that, because before I would sometimes get frozen in place because it's like, and the longer you wait, even by the second, by the minute, or the day, the week, the month, all these decisions just start building up and it just starts getting way too big. And catastrophic stuff can happen in your business when you have to make a massive decision. It can either sink it or swim, and it shouldn't be like that. If you're just constantly making decisions, it doesn't even matter so much if they're all right, because they won't be, but it's just a constant sort of state of going and movement. To me, and then especially when I was doing my podcast, talked to like 500 different people running businesses, it was really that thing sort of that I started to understand was like, the thing that causes the most failure in businesses is that lack of just being able to make a decision. Mm-hmm. Typically, the faster you can make those, the smaller they are, and therefore they really can't sink you. it just sort of, because as soon as you make a decision, you learn, you get more feedback, and now you can make a more educated decision. And again, and it's just sort of a constant thing. So I just have always just made sure that I do that now. And I really, it's also, I guess, some sort of like anti-corporate in the sense where I don't ever want to get things to like, we have to have a board meeting about this and make it just, it's like, we should have already made 10 decisions by that point, because that's how we're going to like get run over or we're going to fail. It's how it is. To me, I think we can, because we can overanalyze stuff, it really is something you have to just learn to just decide, just yes or no. And go, because it does get easier, and that it doesn't now, like, it kind of freaks me out when like I see somebody and they're like, see paralyzed by a decision. It's like, oh, we should have decided like 5 things by now, because we would know for sure what we needed to do then, because we're, again, you to get feedback from everything you tried. And so I think that's actually one of our business like things. What do they call this?
Manifesto sort of things, like
So we have 4 of them.
Values.
What the word is? Values. There we go.
Yeah.
But yeah, the third one is generate ideas, not excuses, and then keep simple and take action is our 4th one, because it's just like we should just be like deciding and generate more ideas, because it just does, rather than let's overanalyze this and decide. It just, it's the way. I'm
interested. I'm interested to know if there is a process in that, because I'm a bit of a design thinking nerd, and before I knew I had ADHD, I was always obsessed with business model canvases or design sprints, and basically anything that involved post-it notes and getting thoughts outside of my head, because if it's inside my head, I'll ruminate and it just buzzes around. I keep making the same thoughts over and over again. But if it comes out and then I can see it, it's like, it helps me think. But also in a group situation, whether we're collaborating on something, designing something together, it helps the group think together with one brain, if you like, because everybody can see the thoughts and the processes. And I wonder if you have any processes like that helps you make decisions as a group or things like that.
Yeah. So we actually, for the last couple of years, we work under the agile workflow. And so we do sprints. Our sprints are 2 weeks long. And so it just keeps things focused. And then, so there's a meeting at the beginning of the sprint, a quick one, like 15 minutes sort of in the middle of it. And then one at the end, a retro, where we go over what worked and what didn't, all on, I need to look at what the tool is, but it's literally Post-it notes, digital, where we can all be working at this. Yeah, Miro. There we go.
Yeah.
And so that's how we work with those. And those are kept very short, because otherwise I get distracted and I'll just have to leave. Although I do actually, the sprint planning ones, I will be honest, the sprint planning ones do, I think, go for about 90 minutes. And I'm only there for the first 15. Everybody knows to bring the questions that they have specifically for me in the first 15 minutes. We go through those. And then I'm like, I want to go, because I just can't handle it. Because they're doing a meeting of hard, just like scrolling through stuff. I got 40 tabs open, and it's just like, I'm not helping at anything right now. So getting those ideas out, I have Post-it notes here. I have like a bullet journal type thing here.
Yeah.
And I have all kinds of like notes apps and stuff. And then we use Miro, though, as a more concerted team effort. But yeah, I like the idea of having those ideas flowing, but only if, to me, I don't like brainstorming sessions just to sort of brainstorm and gather more ideas. It has to be, we need a decision at the end. But make a decision and let's act on it, because then by tomorrow, we'll probably have feedback from whatever. I say it like that because we work in SEO and like search engine optimization. We work in marketing for some really big businesses that get hundreds of thousands or millions of visitors. So we can literally do things or make a change or a decision. And by tomorrow, we can see 4,000 people went through it and we had feedback. Why would we discuss this for longer? Which is sweet. And then let's see again, and let's see again.
Yeah.
So brainstorming and those kind of sessions are good, but again, only if action comes out of it. Otherwise, we're just building it up to the big thing that really just needs to start.
It struck me as I was sort of qualifying to become an ADHD coach that all that I was learning about ways to help people manage their ADHD was to break challenges down into smaller steps and then try and test an MVP, if you like, of a solution that's going to work for them. And then over time, they'll lose interest in that and it won't be as shiny anymore. So you have to reiterate on it. And I was like, this is essentially sort of design thinking in a nutshell. So I think my two worlds sort of collided and I was like, this is the way forward for sort of ADHD management. But I'm interested to know, and I don't know, I don't know how big your team is at Digital Commerce Partners, but are you the only person with ADHD, or is there more of your team that have ADHD, and therefore are you sort of looking at the business internally and thinking, how can we make the business more inclusive and to get the most out of people and neurodiversity?
Yeah, I don't think there's anybody with ADHD. So one of our biggest clients is ADD.org. So ADA, been a client for over 2 years now, and it's never come up that anybody else does. And honestly, we have 7 full-time people, I believe. And then there's a bunch of people that help around part-time and about 10 or 12 writers as well at any given time. But I hire really slow. It takes about 8 weeks for me to hire somebody because I try and figure out exactly what's needed. And typically the things that are needed in the role are things that I typically couldn't do any of those roles well because they do take attention to detail. They take like just very sort of be able to focus in on things and do them and not mess up, but still see the bigger picture. Things that I'm not good at and things that I think lots of ADHD people maybe aren't good at. And so I think because I'm looking for things that people can bring to the table that like will work well with me, they're typically very different than me in that way. Which this is actually the first business I've ever done it like this. In the past, I have always just hired people on, I don't even want to say vibes that I get to do. And it's just like, how does the person sort of jive with me? And I think it's been people like me and it's just been a shit show because we can't have a bunch of meat because we won't get this stuff done. And in sort of like diversity and sort of it's, we're all very different people, yet we all very much like, because we're small, we have to very much, I guess it's like the culture and we feel like we're all part of that team, but we're very different, all of us. Like if something specific needs to be done with a spreadsheet or with like some branding of something, we kind of know exactly on the team who, and it's not just that being their job necessarily, just certain of us have these certain skills and that's just how it is. And some of those skills are mine. And so I would do it, but so I don't think there's anybody else. I wouldn't obviously not hire somebody because of it. And as the team grows, there's going to be certain roles that like, I would like put it as almost a must. Like, especially to me, it's almost the higher you get up in the organization, the more I would want you to have ADHD. Because it's just needed. When you're really down to retrench, it's really specifically looking at and checking the commas and the periods and stuff like that. Like, I just don't think it's a good fit necessarily, but honestly, I mean, I could be hiring people that also haven't reached 40 years old and haven't been diagnosed yet. They're really good at what they do. So it doesn't matter to me in that way, but I think the traits I'm looking for lots of roles so far have been things that are just contrary to me. But I'm not like every other person with ADHD. We're all very different. We don't
Yeah.
all have the same, you know what I mean? Some of our strengths are different. Some of our weaknesses are different. And we've all,
Yeah, if you've met one person, if you've met one person with ADHD, you've met one person with ADHD. All different. So what's the future hold for you? What anything interesting on the horizon? And that doesn't necessarily have to be work. I mean, what else do you like to do outside of work? Because I mean, when I think about myself with ADHD, I've got like tons of different sort of side projects or hobbies that are partially finished, unfinished. Um, so what does life look like outside of work?
I love live music still. I'm not currently in a band that I haven't been in for a couple of years, which is sad. I do have a set of drums right here beside me. And I do a guitar right there that I play. The drums take up a decent portion of my time during the day when I just like, if I'm getting stuck on something, I just like head to the drums. They're electronic, put the headphones on and just go. And we do a fair bit of traveling still because I like it, and especially to see concerts and stuff. This day on No Effects, one of my favorite bands. It was their final tour this year. That's from their final show. We just saw in Los Angeles last month, but we saw them like in Copenhagen this year. I saw them in Toronto. We saw them in Ohio, and we saw them in LA. So I do like to do sort of silly things like that. Like, oh, there's a cool band playing in this country. Let's just go. And it's just sort of how we set up our life so we can do that. And I probably play too many video games at times, especially as winter starts to set in. But, you know, so. And I ride a bike a lot in the city. But that's something I've discovered in the last 2 years. I started volunteering for something called the Bike Brigade here, where we do bike deliveries. So I have a trailer that pulls behind my bike. Traffic is crazy here, but I love to just wind through the traffic. Again, it's probably an ADHD thing. Everything just goes calm when I'm in chaos. And we do food deliveries for food banks. So I do that. I just get to schedule them on Sundays. I get like a window of like 4 hours on each day that I choose. So I can fit it into my day, and I'll just like get off this call and I'll go grab a couple deliveries. Take 10 kilometers across the city.
Is that a push bike or a motorbike?
Push bike. Totally.
Yeah.
I ride a single speed, like city style bike. I think the exercise helps with the calming the brain and taking things down. And it's just like when I have that window, it's like, again, rather than like I got a task and rather than it's just not working right now, rather than sitting here being frustrated for 3 hours with it, I'll just go do those deliveries. I'll come back, probably sit right down, be done. Older me or younger me would have been like, yeah, but it took 4 hours to do it. It's like, yeah, but I'm not frustrated for 3 of those hours. So I did a lot better work and I'm a lot healthier and happier about it. So here we go. Sure, I can work those things then.
I find the same thing if I'm engaged in a physical activity like cycling. I don't cycle as much as I used to, but I always find I get lost when I don't mean physically. Yeah. But if I play football or soccer, I'm so into that and it just feels so good. And I think it's like a really important thing. Or if I take the dog for a walk, loads of ideas come or you problem solve in a different way. The solutions tend to just come to you. But yeah, I mean, I don't know about how you are with impulsivity, but I mean, during the lockdown, I bought a set of electronic drums because I'd always wanted them, but I can't play them. It was like, once I'd bought them, I'd solved the problem of drums. And then it's like, okay, it's a different problem to now learn how to play them.
Yeah, fair. That's fair. I love them. They're great. Well, they're just where we live. I have actual drums too, but they're in a closet. Because they do that. But I absolutely love the electronic ones. So
yeah. No, it's always good when whenever my kids bring friends around and they've not been before, they see them and you go, their eyes light up and they go, okay, go and have a bang.
You can do it. We can do it.
Yeah.
We can do it.
Well, Johnny, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, and I'm just slightly aware of the time because, as we said, it's Halloween, and I've got to take my kids trick or treating. But it's been a real pleasure to chat with you, and yeah, I mean, we wish you all the best with digital commerce partners, and if there's ever an opportunity to chat again, I would love to have you back on the show.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed this. Been fun.
Well, there we have it. Thank you so much for listening this far. If you want to hear more episodes, then please subscribe on YouTube or whatever podcast platform you use. It really helps to spread the word. So if you know anyone this episode could help, then please share it with your friends. If you want to follow me on social media, I am on Instagram at ADHD_goals, and you can find me on Facebook too. If you want to get in touch with the show, then you can email me at hello@adhdgoals.co. And finally, if you're struggling to manage your ADHD and you would like me to be your coach, then please head over to my website and get in touch. Until next time, bye for now.